for 3,000 years until Alexander the Great's armies conquered it in the 4th century BC. Ancient Egypt was the most important civilization in the world. The Great Sphinx. The Great Sphinx sits at the foot of the pyramids near Cairo. It is the largest statue ever carved out of a single piece of stone. 240 feet long, 60 feet high, and wrapped in riddles. In the 1950s, new evidence further put into question the age of the Sphinx.
There are water erosion marks on the body of the Sphinx caused by rain, but that level of rain...
If these erosion marks were made 9,000 years ago, long before this part of Africa was a desert, then Egyptian civilization is far older than previously thought. Number 9 on our countdown can't match the wise Sphinx in age, but in height, there was no... This is Alexandria, Egypt. In the 3rd century BC, it was one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. It was built around a deep natural harbor where the Nile enters the sea. On an island in the harbor, at the end of a man-made causeway 3/4 of a mile long, an incredible lighthouse was constructed to guide ships safely in. At 400 feet high, the pharaohs may have been taller than the Statue of Liberty. The pharaohs stood for over 1,500 years. For all that time, there was nothing like it.
There's never been anything like the pharaohs.
Secrets of the pharaohs may never be fully understood. But there are even bigger secrets, including the raunchiest papyrus ever unearthed. Coming in at number, the Turin Erotic Papyrus. At the beginning of the 19th century, a local farmer near the Valley of the Kings stumbled across an intriguing earthenware vessel. There was something hidden inside. It was an ancient papyrus which shook the world of Egyptology to the core. And this is it. These fragments of ancient scroll, over 8 feet long, are 3,000 years old. It's called the Turin Erotic Papyrus because it's kept here in a museum in Turin in Italy. And it's recommended for adults only. This material is considered so vulgar that we can only show snippets.
I've seen quite a lot of ancient erotic art in my time, but for me,
It makes it to the ancient top 10 list. It changes and humanizes our view of ancient Egypt.
This scroll has given us more insight into the ancient Egyptians than any other discovery I can think of. With this perspective, we now know that as spiritual as the Egyptians were, they were also as...
At number 7, a more G-rated secret. The unfinished obelisk, one of the most amazing engineering feats from ancient Egypt.
Obelisks were
giant pillars pointing upwards toward the sun god Ra. In a quarry here in Aswan, in southern Egypt, is the biggest obelisk of all, but it's still attached to the bedrock. If it had been finished and erected, it would have been nearly as high as Niagara Falls. It earns its place on the ancient top 10 list because it would have been the greatest solid obelisk in history, reinforcing our view of ancient Egyptians as master builders. This is Giza. In 1954, there was an amazing find here. An entire ship buried in the desert, and it's our number 6 secret. The Khufu ship. The ancient ship was buried around 2500 BC in a pit carved out of the solid bedrock. 143 feet long and just under 20 feet wide, now in a specially built museum on the site at Giza. It's the world's oldest intact ship.
What was particularly amazing about it was how this ship was built. There were no fixtures or fittings. It was all held together with...
To transport the dead pharaoh up to his place in the heavens.
It absolutely transformed our...
Is something that was an underground secret the size of a mountain. Early in the 19th century, a young Egyptian boy guided some archaeologists to a rock face near his village. He had found some unusual carvings exposed by the moving sands. the archaeologists returned and began to dig. What emerged was one of the most amazing buildings in the world. It was carved straight into the rock face, and it was the height of a 10-story building. Abu Simbel, a huge temple from the 13th century BC.
Suitably, it's one of the greatest monuments in ancient Egypt.
The pharaoh was Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great. He was the most powerful pharaoh ever and reigned for over 70 years.
The whole thing was made in just about 20 years, and of course this is long before the age of...
Place on the list for revealing the power of ancient Egypt and the power of the pharaohs. Now we're into the top 4, and it's time for a shocking secret that's become a symbol of ancient Egypt, a staple of horror.
Ask anyone what comes to mind when you say ancient Egypt, and
Mummies are the preserved bodies of the dead. The ancient Egyptians believed that preserving the body meant it would live on in the afterlife. They believed that after death, the soul left the body, but that at night it would return to it to receive new life. That's why the body had to be preserved.
Mummification was an incredibly intricate procedure. All of the organs were removed with surgical precision.
they would soak the bodies in vats of chemicals to dry them out.
And the body was packed with salt. This was a key to preserving it. While mummies have shaped our view of how Egyptians looked at the afterlife, our next secret helped to decode everything about the land of the living in ancient Egypt. The key that unlocked ancient Egypt, the Rosetta Stone. It was because of this rock that experts were able to understand hieroglyphics. The Rosetta Stone has 3 bands of writing, one above the other. When it was found, classical scholars could read the ancient Greek. It translated as a list of good works done by the pharaoh. And it was the name of the pharaoh, Ptolemy, that eventually provided the breakthrough needed, because his name was uncovered in the hieroglyphs.
The fact that the same information is written in all 3 languages means that we could work out what the hieroglyphs say, and from that you can...
All the hieroglyphs in Egypt became readable. The Rosetta Stone revealed a huge amount, despite being small in stature. Just missing out on the top slot is one of the greatest building projects of all time. Come as pyramids. Ancient pyramids are found all over the globe, from Central and South America to the Middle East, even all the way to Asia. But no one built them on the same scale or sophistication as the Egyptians. As this map shows, there's a lot more pyramids in Egypt than the 3 famous ones at Giza. In fact, there are over 100 ancient pyramids still standing all over Egypt. The original pyramid architect, Imhotep, was so important to the Egyptians, they made him into a god. The pyramids were a truly incredible achievement and the most iconic symbol of ancient Egypt. Even today, pyramids are everywhere, even on the dollar bill. But the next item on our countdown had its glory hidden for over 3,000 years. The most magnificent, the greatest, most extraordinary secret of all.
Coming in at number 1 are some of the treasures discovered in one of the most amazing archaeological discoveries in history.
The treasure was beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Jewelry, 2 thrones, 6 war chariots, everything the young pharaoh would need in the next life, and even more. Inside this golden coffin was an even greater treasure. It was the face of a 3,000-year-old pharaoh. It was an amazing secret of Egypt, now revealed. The incredible golden death mask of Tutankhamun. Tut's death mask was surrounded by precious stone. The stunning blue is lapis lazuli from Afghanistan. Quartz and obsidian in the eyes that came across the Mediterranean. It weighs 24 pounds and is an ancient masterpiece. Because of this undreamt of secret find, we can get a true feeling for the might of the pharaohs and the power and the glory of ancient Egypt. There has been no civilization like Egypt before or since. Its incredible buildings and treasures can't be matched. It's a land of mystery and a land of secrets, and it will continue to amaze and astonish